Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Alex Burnett. On behalf of the Localization Institute, I'd like to welcome you to this preview webinar for our new Game Localization Masterclass with our instructor, Francesca Sorrentino. Before I turn it over to the Localization Institute founder, Ulrich Hennis, to introduce Francesca, I just wanted to go through a couple of details. We're really excited about this new masterclass. It's going to consist of 4 sessions and course modules, and they begin on Monday, November 23rd, and will last through the 3rd week of December. Then in early 2021, there will be a 5th class session where we'll allow our students to come back together with Francesca and to share their experiences and ask any additional questions that they may have since the course ended. We're very excited about this masterclass, and at this time, I'm really thrilled to turn it over to Ulrich to introduce our instructor. Ulrich?
Yeah, hello, my name is Ulrich Hennis, and I am as Alex said, the founder of the Localization Institute. We started doing localization education roundtables back in 1997. In fact, our first seminar ever took place in 1997, a 2-day introduction to localization seminar that was held in Cupertino, California. And we've done many, many seminars since then. And one of the things that I've always been trying to do is I'm trying to find instructors who are, or the people who instruct in these classes, are people who have been there and done the actual work. The other important requirement is that they are people of independent stature, meaning I find if, for example, we would have a vendor of game localization services teaching this class, it could be an excellent class, but for those who attend the class, they would have to wonder if they're getting the full picture, because naturally a vendor's point of view would be biased in that direction, just like if we had someone who's working for one of the big game companies would have their own bias. And that makes me so excited about having found Francesca because she has a wonderful combination. She started out with a degree in translation, then she worked for 5 years at Electronic Arts, mainly as translation coordinator, and then that was followed by 3 years in the games division of Alpha CRC, a Cambridge, England-based localization vendor. That combination, background in translation, years at the biggest, I think, games company out there, and then at a very sophisticated vendor company, makes her ideal for me. And now she is independent. She's not beholden to any interest other than to teach you the best game localization possible. So I'm very excited to welcome Francesca to our pool of instructors, and I'm also very pleased that we are seeing already such a strong interest in this new masterclass. This has been on the horizon for me for years, but partly, the game industry has been hot for many years, and it's not easy to find someone like Francesca who has the education and the independence. So here she is. Thank you, Francesca, for coming on board.
Thank you, Ulrich, for the great presentation, and thank you, Alex, for the introduction. I'm going to share my screen.
I just wanted to mention too, while Francesca's bringing up her screen share, we will take questions throughout the presentation. We will save those questions for the end, but you can submit a question at any time through the chat feature there, and we'll get to those after Francesca's presentation.
Great. Ulrich already gave you a presentation about me, but I wanted to go into a few more details. So I'm from Italy, as Ulrich said, and you can tell, I'm sure, by the way I moved my hands on video. And I started working basically after my degree in translation and interpreting. I started working straight away in the localization industry. I moved to Germany, and actually before working for Electronic Arts, I worked for two other companies on the client side, Wuga and Big Point, in Berlin and in Hamburg. And so the whole experience on the client side was very interesting for me because I could witness different kinds of realities. So at Wuga, I was an intern and I was taking care of translation, I was taking care of customer care, I was taking care of marketing. And it's a great overview on what's going on behind the scenes. It was a startup, so I was very close to the game developers, to all the engineers, to the game designers, to the producers, and that's great knowledge to have and to grow into a localization expert. When I was at Big Point in Hamburg, the company was already a bit older, and we had a more complex structure. There was a proper localization department, which they still have, and we had a big team of in-house translators. We had our own translation tool, and again, it was great to be with the developers because we were all in the same building, and whenever I had questions or I had any doubts about the games that we were translating, I could just talk to them, basically. I'm just showing here some of the games I've worked on. The Bubble game is from Wuga, and I always like to remember that because I was a big fan. At Big Point, there were many games, and it was actually online games, browser games, and I wanted to mention Farmerama because it was very hot back then, all the farming games. Battlestar Galactica, I remember it because it was really hard to translate. It was very technical because of weapons and spaceships. It was a great challenge. After 2 years of this, I moved to Cologne and I started working for EA, which was a good step forward. So I moved from translation into project management. I was responsible for the translation part of the game localization, let's say. So I would manage all languages for a few titles, and we were working with external vendors, mainly freelancers. I started off with Plants vs. Zombies, which I love, and it's still one of my favorite games. And then I moved on to the EA Sports portfolio. My first game was UFC, and then I started on FIFA, and I stayed on FIFA for I think 4 years in total. What I'm displaying here, what I'm showing here is FIFA 16. It was a special year because it was the year when the female players were introduced. So you can imagine the challenge with all the legacy content that FIFA has that had to be adapted to the new players. It was a different setting at EA because so the way the localization department works there is that they are sort of a service provider to the rest of the company. So there's it's more complex. There's a bit of politics involved, and obviously the games are much bigger, and we're really talking about AAA games. And so the challenges that arise are kind of the same size of the games. So that was my experience with the client side, on the client side. And then after that, I moved from Germany. I moved to Barcelona for personal reasons mainly. And I stayed in the localization industry, but I moved to the vendor side. I was working at Alpha CRC, as Ulrich was saying. It's quite a big company with a lot of history. They've been around for more than 30 years, and they also work with other industries, not only games, which was great for me because I could compare, my experience and my daily work with other fields. So at Alpha, I was a program manager, and I was managing a team of translators, project manager, and testers that were spread around all over the world. So from Brazil to Japan, basically. And also I was doing account management together with my director, and I was traveling and attending events, which is what you can see on the screen. So when you're a vendor, you're not usually allowed to let people know which titles you're working on, but we can at least show the pictures of the event and our old team. So that was a brief introduction on my experience. As Ulrich was saying, I've recently started as a freelancer. I'm independent now, and one of my main projects has been the organization of a conference called Game Global, which is about game localization. Game Global has been around for a few years in various forms, and it used to be part of Lock World. And this year we went, for obvious reasons, we had to go online, so we had a virtual event. And it's been a great experience for me to be involved in this, because I'm still getting a lot of information from different kinds of companies on their processes, on their workflows, on their challenges. And it's information that I'm going to share with you as well, meaning I'm not going to, share the details of what each company is doing, but it's a good background for me to be able to actually teach the masterclass. So as you can see right now, there's a lot of Zoom meetings going on, and I had to create a whole little stage for the event, so I could have a virtual background behind me.
Francesca, I'm sorry to interrupt. Would you, I think we have a couple more folks in the waiting room. Do you mind just checking and seeing if you can admit them real quick?
Yes. I'm not seeing anyone in the waiting room.
Oh, no? Okay.
No, maybe
it just appeared.
Maybe it's timed or they left.
No problem.
Yeah.
Please continue. Sorry to interrupt.
No problem. No problem. I'm going to share the presentation. Okay. I'm going to go back to where I left. So after an introduction about me, I wanted to talk a bit about the actual class and the way we want to structure it. So for the first session, I want to give you an introduction to game localization. We're gonna go through the history of game localization and how it started and what it has become now. We are gonna look at the key terms that always cause a bit of confusion, I would say, such as internationalization, culturalization. And we are gonna look at the different kinds of games and the different kinds of content. As you can imagine, there is a difference between a AAA game, an MMO, or a mobile game that you play on your handheld device. So that's going to be the first session, and in the second session, I would like to go a bit more into detail about what it actually means to localize a game. So especially as translators, we are very focused on translation, and we tend to think that it's all there is, but there's a lot more to that. And also I want to talk about the concepts of transcreation and the idea of creativity. It's always a hot topic when it comes to game localization. I think games are one of the most creative industries you can have, and there are also a lot of constraints. So it's always hard to keep a balance. And we're going to talk more in detail about the importance of culturalization, which is part of the process of localizing video games. And we're going to talk about tools. Translation tools, project management tools, and also machine translation. I know some of you are interested in this topic, and we're definitely going to talk about it, although I'm not a machine translation expert myself, but I have been doing research, and I have been managing actions and initiatives about machine translation in my previous jobs. Session 3 is going to be about the localization process. So the whole process from pre-production of the game, that is also an important phase for localization, moving on to translation, and everything that is related to translation, which is the recordings, for example, of the audio content. We're going to talk about LQA, and we're going to talk about all the steps that follow the translation all the way to the launch of the game and beyond. As you know, the games are not in a box anymore, let's say, meaning that once you ship them, they're done, and there's no other content that is published until the next game is shipped. It's not like that anymore, and there are many steps that are involved in this process. And for the final session 4, I want to talk about strategy, and I want to talk about the stakeholders that are involved in the localization process. I have been on basically all sides of the localization industry, and I can see that there is a lot of miscommunication and a lot of misunderstandings, and everyone doesn't really know what the others are doing. So when you are a vendor, you wonder, why is the developer doing something like this? When you are a developer and you have a localization department, you think, what is the vendor doing? Why are they not reacting? Why have they made this mistake? And when you are a translator, for example, you are kept away from any sort of information of this kind, and you very often just get an Excel file to translate. And I know it's very important to know a bit more about what is going on behind the scenes to be able to actually do our job properly. So this was a brief overview of the masterclass. There's obviously a lot more to this that we will reveal during the class itself, and I'm ready to take any questions you might have. Thank you.
Thank you, Francesca. That was very informative and great background on your history as well, some that I didn't know as well. At this time, we'll take any questions that might be out there. It looks like our first question is from Gerhard, who asks, what's been your motivation for starting this masterclass?
I think it has to do with what I just said. So sharing information and making it easier for everyone involved to do their job and to do their job properly. I think, as I was saying, there's a lot of miscommunication and misconceptions, and when you are caught in the day-to-day work, there's also not a lot of time to investigate what the actual processes are, and so this is what we kind of want to convey. One of the examples that come to mind for me is always the marketing aspect of game localization. So I remember when I was a translator, I would get this text to translate, and it was a promotion for a game or a banner. And most of the times I wouldn't get the background of it. So who is the promotion aimed at? Who is my target audience? When is it going to go live? All these sorts of things that are very important and often are not shared, not because people don't want to, but because there's not enough time to take care of everything.
Great.
So this is the idea behind.
Great. What has your experience as being a co-organizer with the Game Global event taught you about the industry and where it's going?
What I learned is that all companies, no matter on which side of the industry they are, they have their challenges that they're trying to solve, and they're looking for every now and then they're looking for a place to share those challenges and to get ideas and to get solutions that they hadn't talked about. And so where is the industry going? The industry is moving faster and faster, and we have to be very careful and very organized to be able to maintain the quality that the products need, and to be able to ship games that that players actually want to play.
Great. Well, if anyone else has any questions, feel free to submit them at this time. I do see another one coming in. I would just say this webinar has been recorded, and we'll go ahead and publish this to the course website after we're done here, hopefully later today. We'll also send out a link to everyone who registered for the webinar. Would like to also say that if you have any additional questions about the masterclass regarding the price or the format or anything related to the course, don't hesitate to email me at alex@Localization Institute. If you have any specific questions for Francesca too that didn't get answered today, I can always pass them along. We do have one more question for you, Francesca, from Claudia. She asks, what do you think are the skills a translator needs to be a good game localizer?
I'm going to start with an easy one. So you want to be creative, and I think what has worked for me the most is, and I think it works for any sort of translator, is you have to be open-minded and know about many things. So in my experience, I had to translate spaceships games, pirate games, farm games, serious games about kids with diabetes. So you have to keep an open mind, and you have to be able to adapt to all these sorts of different scenarios and different topics that you might find. And obviously, playing doesn't hurt. So it's not that all video game translators are video game geeks, but you want to know what the platforms look like, and you want to, when you translate a game, you want to have an idea about how it actually works when you play it.
Here's a fun final one. What was your favorite game to work on, and why? And what was the most challenging game you had to work on?
So my favorite game to work on has been, I have to say, has been FIFA, because it was the most challenging one. For me, it was the most complex one, because it had everything that um, that you can experience basically when you're localizing a game. So I had to deal with rights, and with data collection, and with audio, and with LQA and postmortems, everything. And it was, I was really proud of working on that game, because it was the biggest game in the company. And also it was great for me that it was about a real thing, like football, right? And I could see the football players there that you can see on TV. And the most challenging one, I think I mentioned it in my presentation, it was definitely Battlestar Galactica. There were so many details you had to pay attention to as a translator, because there was an IP, so you had to know the show, and how it was localized, and it was very technical. So you really had to go into details with spaceships, descriptions, and weapons, and it was a lot of research.
Well, thanks. That's really fascinating, Francesca. It looks like we have one more question we'll take from Danielle. And this is a two-part question. Is the masterclass useful for someone who would like to begin working in the video game translation industry? She has a bachelor's degree in Japanese, but almost all of her applications were never applied. Only Rockstar Games permitted me to do a test, and one of the biggest vendors never replied. So what do you suggest for a person like Danielle?
So it's definitely going to be useful, because you're going to have a broader idea of what the industry looks like. It is a small industry though, and it's a very competitive one. So you don't want to feel discouraged if you send some CVs and you don't get an answer. I think it's important to know also what other positions there are in the industry, aside from translator, let's say, or tester, and this course is definitely going to help with that.
Great.
Did I miss? Was there another part of the question that I missed?
Well, no. The
Okay.
second part was just the background about her bachelor degree and not hearing a response from the other vendor. Seeing no more questions at this time, I think this will conclude our preview webinar. Francesca, thank you so much for taking time today to give us a little preview, a little insight into what this great new course is going to be. On behalf of Ulrich Hennes-san and the Localization Institute, I'm extremely excited about this new masterclass. Your first class is scheduled already to start on Monday, November 23rd. We look forward to seeing a lot of you out there at that first class. Registration is now open. You can find out a lot more at our website, localizationinstitute.com. If you have any additional questions, please don't hesitate to email me at alex@localization.com. Thanks for joining us today, everyone. Thank you, Francesca.
Thank you, Alex, and thanks everyone for joining us.
Have a wonderful afternoon, evening, morning, wherever you are. Thanks for joining us. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.